Can you take us back to the beginning? How did you discover your passion for music?
That's a good question. I think it was I started. My dad got me a violin when I was like 6, and I remember just really being into Star Wars and Indiana Jones and like all those different movies, and so I would try to like replay the songs, even though I wasn't that good at it. I only knew like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and eventually I just like would play it over and over, and eventually I'd get it. And so they're like, "Oh, we need this kid to do lessons," and they got me in lessons, and then I mean, it just took a whole evolution from there. I learned piano, and then I started writing, and then we are where we are now.
But when you look at your career as a whole, who or what's had the biggest influence, either personally or professionally?
I mean, professionally, there's a lot of people. Personally, um, I think it was just, I think the overall thing that I love about making music and writing in general is just that a lot of times people don't really want to hear what you're going through or hear what you have to say. A lot of times I always feel like bad for telling people if I have like a bad day or if I'm going through something. But when you write a song about it, it kind of makes it okay, and you kind of put it in that little time capsule, and then you're able to get through it. It's like therapy for you, and then for the listener, they can also relate and empathize with you. And it's just a lot easier for me than like going and feeling like I have to confide in a bunch of people. But at the end of the day, I'm confiding in the whole world. So I guess it's like, I mean, it's no different. But personal relationships, there's a guy named Ray Jr. who was very, very helpful to me in the beginning of my career. I started rapping in Cleveland at my high school, and he saw a video of it, and he's the reason that I was on that show Boy Band. And he kind of basically just took a chance on me, put me in the studio, introduced me to a bunch of people in the Cleveland scene, and um, eventually the boy band casting producer saw me. And yeah, that was that.
Speaking of boy band, you were a member of In Real Life. What was the biggest lesson you learned from that experience that you've now been able to apply to this next chapter in your career?
Oh man, I think it's learning fan connection and fan interaction. That was something that I was always really passionate about because all my favorite artists had like really like diehard fan bases. And so um I think if there's anything that I took away from that, I mean, aside from the performing, aside from learning how to do interviews or how to be on TV and how to do all this other stuff, I think it was establishing a personal relationship with the fans and learning how to be vulnerable to people that you can't see and that you can't always talk to. But I also learned I learned the importance of like meeting them face to face. I remember we did like a couple headlining tours, and we would have like VIP packages, right? Where like you come in and you pay to meet us and then whatever. But I always thought that I always was like, well, if I was a fan, I would love if the artist would come and talk to me like outside of a meet and greet. And so I would make it my priority to, after every show, go and speak to everybody, even if they didn't get the meet and greet. And I would just sit there for however many hours it took just to take pictures and talk and share stories with the people who came to support.
You recently released your debut single with an important message that the world needs to hear right now. Can you tell us about With You in Mind?
I mean, that song. That's how I felt for a while, and it kind of unfortunately took the death of George Floyd and a couple other people to really like get those words out finally. And it's unfortunate it took that long, but I think that the fact that it was my first song, um, I think I'm proud of myself. It was nerve wracking to put it out, to be honest, because I wrote it with no intention of releasing it. And then when I saw the words, and I was like, wow, this is actually probably my best work I've ever done. So I think it's important. It just became so much bigger than me and like my ego when it comes to releasing my music. I was just like, look, some people are going to hate what I have to say and some people are going to love it. And but regardless, it's going to start a conversation, which I think ultimately is what needs to happen and has needed to happen for a while.
You've made it your mission as an artist to inspire the next generation of superheroes and use your platform to spread words of encouragement and positivity, often exposing really vulnerable sides to yourself. How did you discover your voice as not only an artist, but also as an advocate?
Man, well, I think I think you can't really empathize with people who are going through stuff unless you've suffered yourself. And so I just think that the advocate part, I mean, it's funny. I would never call myself like an advocate, but like I guess that is what I do. I just I try to take into account people's feelings, and I because I know how intense it is for me. Like I feel things very intensely, and that's why my art and my music comes out the way that it does. Very like in your face, very like I need to tell you something. Um, and I feel like my biggest thing is that I want people to tell their stories. I want to give you like almost every detail of my life and the stuff that I've gone through so that people feel the confidence within themselves to admit those things and to put it out to the world themselves. Because truly, like, I'm not the, I know that there's going to be a kid after me who just does so much better than me and says, and doesn't make the mistakes that I make and has better words, better flow, like better production, plays the violin better, like whatever it is. So I'm just, I guess I always think of like, I'm always thinking of the next generation. I'm always thinking of how can I continue something and evolve music and just evolve not only music, but like, you know, the way that we look at like our children and the importance that we put on them. Cause I mean, we could get into this like later, but like the education system and all that stuff, like that stuff I'm very passionate about and stuff that I want to make an impact in because it affected me so much as a kid. So I just want kids to feel like they do have a voice and that people deserve to hear or they deserve to be heard. And sometimes people aren't going to give you that chance. People aren't going to give you that opportunity to say something. So sometimes you just got to say it and just not care about the consequences.
That in addition to being a rapper, you're also a trained violinist. As you're working on a new track, are you always looking for opportunities to incorporate that part of your craft into the song?
It's fun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I am now because like before I was in when I was in the band, like I could only really rap. And now that I'm me, I get to like learn all these new things. So I picked up the ukulele last year, and that's been really fun. So in every song that I do, I'm always trying to find different elements of personality because I think that you know when you're making a song or just any piece of art, I feel like I have so many tools. Like I can rap, I can sing, I play violin, I could do ukulele, I could play piano, and so like one of my ultimate goals is to have an album that like has those just like scattered throughout but it's like and I think that that makes it so me because you know everyone has their own rhythm, everyone has their own um like type of music that they like to make. So I think that if you have like five instruments it makes something so cool, and if I can find a way to blend everything and make it like sick, I think like that's like my ultimate goal. So yes, I do look for opportunities like every time.
2020 has been a huge year for you from doing your first headlining solo show to releasing your debut single. As we look ahead to the rest of 2020 into 2021, what can fans expect?
Oh man, well that thank you for acknowledging that because I I forgot how awesome that was. Um, but it's a whirlwind, man. I mean, even you mentioning the headlining show, like I didn't even like really take a chance to like think about that. Like that's it's crazy. That was my first show, and it was on the first day of this decade, which is pretty awesome in my opinion. Um, what can they expect? I mean, you know, we got so many restrictions these days, so there's not so much I can do, but just doing my best to focus on the art right now because you know the world's closed off. So if I can create something that people can hold on to since I can't see you, since I can't like meet you and hug you and talk to you and stuff, I guess it's merch. It's merch, whether it's music videos, a mixtape, whatever it is. I plan on doing everything I can to just like speak, I guess, and just get myself out there. And
And then
hopefully I could do a one of those live stream shows like Billie Eilish did. I think that'd be sick.
And then we just like to end all of our interviews with a pop culture speed round. Is there a band or artist that fans would be surprised to learn is on your playlist?
Band or artist, they'd be surprised. Ooh, you know what? Check real quick. Well, I will say you mentioned band. I want to shout out Why Don't We, because they've been very supportive of me, and I think the new single "Fallen" is fantastic. So I'm gonna go with that.
What about the first album you ever bought?
First album I ever bought. Ooh, it was actually an Indiana Jones soundtrack from Barnes and Noble. So I used to just love the soundtracks, and that was the first one I ever bought. It was the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull soundtrack, something like that.
What about the first concert you ever attended?
First concert I ever attended was J. Cole 2014 Forest Hills Drive tour in 2015. That was the show. So he had dropped, that was like my favorite album that had dropped. And, you know, I'd never really been to a concert, like to see like an artist. I'd been to like orchestra concerts and stuff, but this was my first time seeing an artist and like a rapper. And at the time I was just getting into rap and I was just starting to like really fall in love with the craft and releasing music and just like working on my skill. And so I saw his show and it was literally it was the deciding factor for me to know that, oh, this is what I want to do. I saw him up there and I was like, yep, that's it. That's what I'm going to do when I'm older. And so now, what is it, 6 years later, I'm here. We're going to get there at that Jiffy Lube amphitheater. But yeah, that was a real special day for me to see that.
What about an album that changed your life and why?
It would probably be that one. But also, man, there's a lot, dude. There's so many. I would say Late Registration, Kanye West. I would say Under Pressure by Logic. I would say Reasonable Doubt by Jay-Z. I would say the Eminem Show. I would say, dude, there's so many. Anything John Williams does. um I'll try to zero in on one. We could yeah, I don't know. There's so many, but I think the underlying theme of them all is just that like I just fell in love with all these people's stories. Like the reason I wanted to do rap was because at that time, like back in 2010, like 2010s, like when you know you can only get songs on iTunes, you were so selected. We didn't have Spotify playlists. We couldn't just download any song at any time for free technically. So you had to be selective and I gravitated towards the artist who had such an impactful story and had a way with words. I'm attracted to like wordsmiths and people that can just paint a picture and take you to their life. Like I love Kendrick Lamar, I love Biggie, Tupac, like all these artists who just like they make you feel like you're watching a movie, but it's like audible. So I mean all those people, I mean they still have an impact on me today. I still study every single one of them and like just listen and I even pick up things that I didn't hear before. And I'm just like, whoa, like I didn't even catch that when I was 17 or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it'd probably be those.
Well,
Um,
and you can see that in your own graph. What about a venue that's on your bucket list to perform at?
okay, so this is the ultimate one, Kevin. All right, so the biggest dream of mine, biggest venue. If I played Wrigley Field, I would feel like I've made it. Like I've done it all. I think. I mean, I say that now, but when I'm there, I'm probably gonna want to do like a million more venues. But for me, it's Wrigley Field. And that's just because, I was born in Chicago. I feel like it would be it's like almost a nice like cap off to the story, to go back to the place where I was born and to sell out the baseball stadium. And baseball has been such a part of my life, and also my dad's life. Like that's something my dad and I share, is our love for baseball. And I know that that's something that he would lose his mind over if I did Wrigley Field. So yeah, that'd be the one.
And then final question for you. When you're on the road, what's a must-have?
Underwear and socks. Like
Right.
straight up, like people don't understand like how how important it is. Like I remember one of my favorite things was on one of the tours within real life. We just tweeted because fans, they're so generous. They'll bring us like candy and gifts and shirts and all this other stuff. And we were just like, hey guys, like you totally don't have to bring us anything, but if you want to be awesome, socks and underwear. And we tweeted our sizes, and because if you're on a bus, like you don't want to be carrying around a bunch of dirty underwear and socks. Like it just smells, and then you just feel grimy, like carrying a suitcase full of all this dirty stuff. So they would give us all these packs at every show, and so we could just put them on, take them off, throw them out, and it was the best. It was the coolest. So future tours, yeah, that's an absolute necessity.